Hello everybody! I am here today to tell you about a military parade in which the army showed off its newly acquired capabilities. This is the first time that they've shown this to the public, so everybody was very excited to see it. So, well, what did they show off? Well, one of the things they showed off was the new urban protected firepower, which is basically a way of protecting your infantry on the ground from enemy fire while they're moving through an urban environment. Because if you've ever played any sort of military shooter game, you'll know that usually when you're moving through an urban environment, you're exposed to enemy fire from buildings and stuff like that. So, how do you solve this problem? Well, the solution is to use drones. Yes, that's right. The army has come up with a system where drones will fly ahead of the infantry, identify targets, and then destroy those targets before the infantry even gets there. And then, once the infantry is close enough to the enemy, the drones will switch to a more precise weapon called a micro-warthog. So, the drone flies ahead, identifies the target and destroys the target, and then the infantry can move in and secure the area. Now, obviously, this is still in its early stages because these robots weren't created yesterday. It takes a long time to develop these sorts of technologies, but the army is hoping that eventually it will be able to deploy these robots alongside its infantry units so that they have an extra layer of protection against enemy fire. Another thing they showed off was their new AI-powered drones. Now, these aren't the kind of drones that you and I might use to take aerial footage of our weekend, camping trips. No. These are combat drones that can be used to identify and engage targets on the battlefield. The idea that by using artificial intelligence, these drones will be able to do a lot of the work of identifying and engaging targets without having to have humans in the loop. This could allow the military to free up human soldiers for other tasks, and also reduce the cognitive load on those soldiers who are operating in a high-stress environment. Of course, this technology is still in its early stages, but the potential applications are really exciting. Imagine being able to send a swarm of these little guys out to scout ahead, or even to engage enemy troops. It could really change the way that warfare is conducted. And finally, they showed off their new robot dog. Okay, so we've all seen robot dogs before. There are a lot of companies that make robot dogs, but this is the first time that the army has had its own dedicated robot dog. And it's not just for show either. This robot dog is actually meant to be used in real combat situations. The idea that these robot dogs will be able to go places that are too dangerous for humans to go, like into enemy territory to gather intel or to disable enemy traps. They can also be used to deliver supplies or even to fight alongside human soldiers. On the battlefield, the robot dog has a number of different weapons at its disposal, including machine guns, grenade launchers, and even a rocket launcher. Of course, these weapons can be used to devastating effect if they fall into the wrong hands. But the army assures us that these robots are under the control of highly trained operators at all times, and that there are fail-safes in place to prevent them from going rogue. Only time will tell how well this new technology will be able to stand up to the rigors of real combat. But the army is hopeful that it will be able to give soldiers an edge on the battlefield and keep them out of harm's way. Alright, so now let's get back to the video. The first thing that I want to talk about is the robots. As I said before, the robots were one of the main attractions at the parade, and they really wowed the crowd. There were all kinds of different robots on display, from small scout robots to larger combat robots. One of the most popular robots was the Big Dog robot, which is a large robot dog that was developed by Boston Dynamics. The Big Dog robot is really impressive. It can run, jump, and climb over obstacles with ease, and it can carry a large payload of equipment. Another popular robot was the Shadow Warrior, which is a humanoid robot that was developed by the Korean Electronics and Telecommunications Research Institute. The Shadow Warrior can walk, run, and even do battle with other robots. It was really cool to see these robots in action. They really seem like something out of a science fiction movie. The second thing I want to talk about is the vehicles. As I said before, this was a mechanized parade. That means that there were a lot of cool vehicles on display. There were all kinds of different tanks, armored vehicles, and other military vehicles. One of the most impressive vehicles was the Mobile Protected Firepower System, which is a new system that was developed by the Army. This system is designed to protect infantry from enemy fire while they're moving through an urban environment. It uses a combination of drones and robotic vehicles to create a safe path for infantry to move along. Another cool vehicle was the Mobile Protected Firepower System, which is a system that was developed by the Army to provide cover for infantry as they move into a combat zone. The system consists of a truck-mounted gun and a surveillance and reconnaissance drone. The gun can fire high-powered rounds that can penetrate tank armor, while the drone provides soldiers with real-time video of the battlefield, so they can identify targets and assess the damage they've inflicted. The third thing I want to talk about is the aircraft. Yes, there were also aircraft at this parade. There were all kinds of different helicopters and fixed-wing aircraft on display. One of the most impressive aircraft was the Future Attack Reconnaissance Aircraft, which is a new aircraft that is being developed by the Army to replace the aging O-6 Cayuse and O-58 Kiowa helicopters. The Pharaoh will be a multi-purpose aircraft that can be used for reconnaissance, surveillance, target acquisition, and close air support. Another cool aircraft was the MQ-1C Grey Eagle, which is a drone that can be used for surveillance and reconnaissance missions. The Grey Eagle has a high-altitude endurance of up to 15 hours and can be equipped with a variety of sensors to collect intelligence on enemy forces. Finally, let's talk about the soldiers. As I said before, this was a mechanized parade. That means that the focus was on the vehicles and equipment rather than the soldiers. However, there were still a few soldiers on display. For example, there was a group of soldiers who were demonstrating the Mobile Protected Firepower System. These soldiers were wearing next-generation tactical gear, which includes a new helmet, body armor, and rifle. The new gear is designed to be lighter and more comfortable than previous gear, while still providing soldiers with the protection they need. Overall, I thought the parade was very impressive. It was cool to see all of the new equipment and technology that the Army is developing. I think the robots were the highlight of the show. They were just really impressive to watch in action if you had the chance to see the parade. What did you think? Let me know in the comments below. And if you'd like to learn more about the Army or its new equipment, be sure to visit the website. Thanks for watching.